Hey guys, welcome back. Bolt Spider here, and today I'm with a new ban list discussion. Now, we are heading into the ban list season as it is no sooner than March 1st, 2021, and that is almost a month away as of the 8th, as the day that it's going to be this video is going to be going out on. So, what are my opinions for this ban list this time? Last time I got only a handful of cards right, and let's get right into it. Now, the first card is a very, very big no-brainer. Let me just open up my internet real quick and open up the page that I have real quick, because overall it's just my thoughts and opinions on what it is. So the first off, we have the one that everyone is saying that should be banned on this next list. And this card is True King of All Calamities. Now, True King of All Calamities is in a lot of decks right now that can make multiple level 9 monsters. It's just like the Nightmare Mermaid meme back in 2019 with Orcust, but this time it's just 2 level 9 monsters to make a card that says no to any card of said attribute that you declare cannot be used from the field, banished, graveyard, and even in hand. So it could shut off a lot of hand traps, and with VW making 2 of them, that deck has been not very fun to play against, and overall this card definitely needs to go for the state of the game to be healthy. Now, I have one card that is borderline limit or borderline ban, and this next card is Cyber Angel Ben 10. It really depends on how Konami wants to go with this. Put it to 1 to help sell Lightning Overdrive with Beta Moa Fafnir, the new rank 1 for Drytron, or they can ban it straight out and hurt the consistency of the fairy engine that Drytron abuses as they go through Ben 10 3 to 4 times in their one combo. Even though Drytron is one of the top tier decks, it is one of the newer ones, so they probably want to keep it to make it where they could still be played. Really, if they keep it at 1, that's absolutely fine, as they cannot cycle between the Ben 10s, and it lowers the consistency of the deck. Even though they still run 3 Cyber Emergency and 3 Preparation Right, the Preparation Right becomes a brick, and the Cyber Emergency is still useful because they could still search out their Drytron cards. Now, those are the 2 cards that I would like banned, and maybe limit the Cyber Angel Ben 10 to keep Drytron around for a while, but it's hard to tell because of how the track record has been for the past few months with Konami, because they straight up banned something like Black Dragon. But now let's get into our limited sections. The first card is a no-brainer, being Firewall Dragon with the errata. This card has been errated for the OCG, and we're going to be getting it most likely in Ghosts of the Past. So it can safely go to 1 with the errata, unlike they did with My Career the Destructor, accidentally putting it to 3 without releasing their errata on the same day of the ban list being out. Overall, Firewall Dragon has seen its time on the ban list, and with the fix to its effect, it definitely deserves to come off the list. It could stay at 1 for a while, or it could go straight to 3 after quite a bit of the lists. Now, one card that people say that they want to hit, that I've been seeing a lot, is that they want Cursed Eldland to be limited. The reason why, it is the Rota for the deck. It's a non-searchable card because it's an Eldland. It's not an Eldritch or Golden Land. And overall, I have to agree with this, because hitting this is hitting the consistency somewhat of the deck, because you do send this off of something like Magician Souls and certain variants, or sending it to the graveyard for your Eldritch effect. Now, with the new release of the 2 new Eldritch cards out of Blazing Vortex, this could be a small semi-limit hit. It could be a couple cards getting hit, just like how they did Sky Striker, but this card is definitely one of the cards that is a big candidate because it's always a 3 of in the deck and a mandatory 3 of for any variant they are running. So this is one of the candidates for my limited section. Now, another card that you guys might think is going to be a little odd, but it is more thought than what it is. We have Heavy Metaphors Electromite. Now, Pendulums haven't been doing anything for the past year, and they have only received, between OCG and TCG, a total of 5 new cards plus how many other cards that the Doreme Code Pendulum deck has, but they really haven't been doing much since Electromite has been banned, and they weren't even really doing much back in the December format of 2019, only a few tops here and there. So bringing this card back is 100% safe of what they could do, and overall it's definitely going to be a card to bring back rather than bringing back something like an Astrograph Sorcerer. Next, we have our semi-limited section. I want to keep the limited section short, but let's go into the semi-limited section. First off, we have Danger Nessie. This card is the Rota for the deck, even though I said most Rota cards are at 1, but it's all RNG for the Dangers. And I could see the first one going to 2 being Nessie because it's not really one of the most important ones that people ran. I see some people running more of Jackalope and Tsuchinoko over Nessie because Nessie is a level 7. They would rather run the level 3 because 3-axis was the thing. But Nessie is one of those cards that, okay, you can get a body, draw a card, or you thin out your deck to grab a danger card. Now, hence being danger card, it's more of like, oh, you have to hit and discard it. Usually people ran 2 Nessie, 2 Jack, 2 Tsuchinoko, or sometimes 1 Nessie, 2 Jack, and 2 Tsuchinoko. But overall, this card definitely deserves to be peeled to 2, since Dangers really haven't been doing anything for the past year. Now, overall, I'm gonna swap to the song. And Nessie definitely would be one of those cards to come off the list. Now, next we have an interesting topic that everyone likes to bring up is Called by the Grave. Now, Called by the Grave is one of those cards that people hated when it got limited because it gave combo decks too much control on how they play. We're in a format now that is a combos hybrid control format, and this card coming back to 2 is completely fine because it is a perfect balance where at 2, if it goes to 3, it goes to 3. If it stays at 1, it stays at 1. It's just one of those things where if you put it to 2, you do risk certain cards being played, but that's fair because we're in a super heavy hand trap format, and I'm not a big fan of it. I was even thinking of putting some hand traps on this ban list because there's so many, and so many kind of do need to get put in check, but by putting Call by the Grave to 3, it puts them in check. Or even putting it to 2 puts it in check slightly more. Then the next card, we have Beatrice, Lady of the Eternal. Burning Abyss has done nothing when Graph and Seer went to 2 and went to 3. Putting Beatrice, Lady of the Eternal to 2, then to 3, follows the same exact pattern, and overall, BA Full Power won't do much with triple Beatrice because how their extra deck is structured and how tight it is already. They really only need to play 1 nowadays because of how the deck runs, but it's always nice to have that extra copy of these cards. Sure, it's a Foolish Burial, but you're not really going to be Foolish barreling much in today's age because the game has been power crept to high heavens where BA can't really hold a ground outside of 3-axis Link. Now, the next section is the unlimited section, and I have 4 cards for this. First off, we have Digasto Emerald. This card has been sitting at 1 ever since it got released, and it is one of those cards that I feel like it can just come back to 3, and it's not going to do any harm because we have things like Norden Band. We have Pot of Avarice at 3. And Pot of Avarice doesn't really see play. Digasto Emerald is 2 monsters. You're putting 2 cards into a resource. Sure, you could shuffle one of those monsters back into the deck, but you're putting so many cards into it that it's a low reward. And in all honesty, Digasto Emerald is one of those cards that kind of could just come back to 3 with no problem. Same with all the cards that I have at the Unlimited. Like the next card is True King's Return. This card did nothing when it was at 1, did nothing when it was put to 2, so it's going to be just put to 3. As overall, True King's Return, they only really ran 1 of it, and they're nowhere near to where they were as how powerful they were with triple Diagram 1 Masterpiece and without even Masterpiece, because the reason is Diagram's still at 1 and Demise, Card of Demise is still at 1, so that hurt their consistency a lot. So bringing this back to 3 doesn't really do much for the deck. It just gives a more consistent way for more of their trap cards to be ran. Even though they only run the 4 trap cards and the 6 spells, it gives them more of an option to play the trap heavy variant, but it's more of a thing like True King's Return is okay nowadays. Next, we have Destiny Hero Malicious. This card bounces back 2 to 3, and with how heroes are, they are still terrible how they play, and Mally doesn't really need to be on the list anymore. It could go to 3 perfectly fine, and sure, it's an extender for a lot of decks, but not a lot of decks are going to play it because of how much control there is. Sure, it gives them a little consistency boost, and they go back to the build that they were, but they still die super fast because they don't really put up that many negates outside of 2, and that's child's play to what today's format is, setting up like 4 or 5 negates. And the last 2 cards are super obvious. We have Dwarling Tiger King of the Iceberg with the errata coming out for the OCG in the Ice Barrier structure deck, and this card is now a hard op, so it can come back to 3 with no problem at all. And the final card is my wild card, as I always have a wild card, and it is Wall of Revealing Light. This card is slow and no one will run it. That's the thing. A lot of these cards that are on the list is like, oh, they're powerful. Cool. But then there's some cards like Wall of Revealing Light that are useless. So overall, this has been my prediction list from VFD, Ben 10, Firewall, Curse Eldland, Electromite, Nessie, all the way to Wall of Revealing Light. Hopefully you guys did enjoy, and hit that like button down below, and I want to hear your guys' thought as well on your ban list predictions and what you think will come off the list and go on to the list. But anyways, I've been Bolt Spider. See you guys in the next video, and goodbye.